This person's a DOT employee, and there's a, rule of 25%. So we're like, 1, 2.
Hi, Catherine. Sound check. Can you hear me well?
Yep. How are you doing?
Uh, can you do the test again? Because it doesn't sound correctly.
Oh, hold on, hold on. I have to switch
Yeah.
the audio.
Because I know that sometimes you can say, well, nobody's paying me. But therefore,
Hi, Catherine. Sound check. Can you hear me well?
yeah. How are you doing?
Yes, that was the. Can you do the test again? Because it doesn't sound correctly.
Oh, hold on. I have to switch the audio.
Because I know that sometimes you
Okay, all right, you hear me okay? Is the owl? Oh, yeah, is that, it's so bright in here, I can't see the little eyes on the, like the owl eyes? Yeah. Yeah, but I don't think it'll, we'll see how much it does.
Yeah, it has to do more with the brightness. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. The brightness is coming
You can
through.
turn the
but-
lights off in the room. I don't think we need them anymore.
I mean, it's better
marginally.
marginally.
Okay.
Alexis, do you mind turning off one just to see? One of the
One
lights,
light, one switch.
because it's gonna be bright in here for a while, so. Yeah, that's better. Hi, Jim.
Hi, how are you?
Be good. Hmm? That was the spot that you said. Yeah. I think it was Noemi who co-signed. Okay, hey, James. Welcome. We're just waiting for more folks to plan to join online. We should get started in about 5 minutes. All right. Might as well start on time. We're here on time, right? So we'll wait. Anthony's coming, Domingo's coming. Exactly. It's 6:30. Oh, look at that, right on time. He wants it.
Executive committee.
All right, so 6:37, we have a quorum. So we can call to order. All right, so tonight we have a couple of news. I don't think we'll have a treasurer's report. But I can talk a little bit about finance since Leo's not here. And then, oh, yes,
Because I can't see your face.
let me,
I
yeah,
can't.
I got you. Sorry about that. I'm like looking down at the same time.
I
Um,
understand that, but
we have this, all right, so Alexis will talk about some kind of attendance, member things. We're really a month away from end of session. So if you do have asks around members, we can talk about that. And then on the guidance documents, did we talk about that today? Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, guidance documents, resos and events. So we have a couple of the guidance documents. It's item 6. Hey, Cedar.
Hello, everyone.
And we have one reso before us, which is there on the corner if you don't have a copy. And the reso is from Youth and Education. All right, cool. So let's talk calendar, everybody. We got things that we need to put on the calendar today. So as Jim likes to say, hey, you know, it's about the majority. So the majority is here. We pick a date and that's what it is. All right, so holidays, we have Juneteenth in June. Doesn't really affect much because it's the 3rd week of the month and exec is on the 1st one, and then we meet June 24th. Okay, is anybody having an off-site meeting this in June? A meeting outside of the office?
Yeah.
Where are you this month?
Green Plaza, remember?
Oh, yes, yes, sorry. Too much stuff, okay. Let's, Ebenezer, let's make sure that on the calendar for June, on the printed one that we give next week, we have that, that info on the aging committee.
Yeah, I sent the flyer.
Yeah, I saw it today. It's pretty.
So do we set up like a Wi-Fi router outside for that? How does the hybrid aspect? of
It's
that
not.
work? Oh, it's not going to,
It's gonna be a informal.
this,
committee meeting.
okay,
Listen, there aren't many of us left anyway. on the committee, so,
Yeah.
you know.
okay,
Joseph,
Got it.
so.
right.
Oh, yeah, you don't have a quorum anymore.
They don't have a quorum.
You have
Okay.
3 members. Yeah, you're down to 3.
1/3 of my committee.
Well, everybody left?
One
One
is,
left.
one resigned and 2 are not renewing, did not renew.
Wow.
Okay.
My assistant chair
People around.
resigned, he's got a promotion. God bless you.
Mhm.
She left, huh? He got a promotion, that's why he
To what?
resigned. Huh?
To what?
To what, I'm not sure. I haven't
Oh,
spoken.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize the owl was off this whole time. Sorry, folks. Yeah, it is
No.
a little
Only that.
blurry, but.
This is the, comes up online, right? This
Yeah,
pops
people
up.
can click on the digital or on top of the digital calendar, the PDF is there.
Is it possible to put where the general board meeting is on this one?
We could now, some months it's not, it might change. So that's why it's on the digital one, but we could. So location. All right, the other thing for June is, I know that June 6th was supposed to be the mixer with CB 9, 10, 11. But there was a like issue with the space that we booked for the 6th. So I managed to get it for the 28th. Yeah, so it's Saturday, June 28th. I'm not putting that here because this is only for CB members, but just so you know. On Saturday, June 28th in the 2nd floor downstairs.
What time?
I think I have to solidify that. It's either gonna be 11 or 12. So it'll be like a brunch.
I
vibe.
can't do
Okay,
that.
that's Harlem Pride. By the way,
Harlem Pride starts at 12, right?
so that's all those CDs, yeah, yeah. I guess I can-
They didn't say anything.
I'm loading in at Marcus Garvey Park.
Okay, let me see what they say because we're kind of short out of luck with spaces is the issue.
And you
Um,
try, the what? Harlem Public? Not Harlem Public.
The problem is that it's 200
Hilltop.
people. So the
Um,
invite list is like 250 people. Realistically, we know that not all 50 members are gonna go for each board. It'll probably be like 100 in total. But we still need to like invite all of our electeds, the VP's office. So that, you know, we need a space big enough and it's wild how few spaces we have that can hold that up
What
here.
is this thing again?
So it's like a mixer between all 4 uptown boards.
Oh,
So
wonderful idea.
yeah, so that way like the arts and culture folks can gather, meet each other, chairs can connect. Yeah.
What about space at 181st, Radio Tower, 12th floor? That is a really nice space.
I don't know why I didn't think about radio all the time. Let me find out. And what the charge might be. Oh, wait, the
Aren't they
courtyard,
supposed to be doing community
not,
things?
yeah, but I don't know about the upstairs.
To be also a courtyard, open to the public.
Yeah, in the courtyard, I think they hold 200
Yeah, oh yeah.
and it's free, okay. Okay, thank you for that, Isidro, that's perfect, because I don't think we could get any space downstairs any other Saturday or a Friday, so. If maybe we could do the 27th, the evening, that could work. All right, awesome. All right, so that's June. July, we have two things we need to set dates for. One is the orientation. Last meeting, we said we wanted it in July for the new members. We have 9. I would say we technically didn't do an invite for, or we didn't do an orientation last year. It was more like one-on-one. So I think it could be open to anybody who wants like a refresher. Can anybody throw out some dates and times?
I'm only good on Monday, July. No, they have all. I'm not gonna be here.
Okay,
I won't be here.
okay,
That's why I voted no for July.
okay.
I like a weekday,
Oh.
Friday.
So
No.
we can pick either the week of right after 4th of July or the second week.
The second week, let me see, what Santo Domingo. I think I might go on the 10th, like, yeah. So, let me.
Hold on, my work schedule's a mess in July. Let me see something.
Few hours or?
I think it's like, what, like 2 hours tops?
It could be all, can it be done in August? Like right before we start? So, like, launch
Can it be
kickoff?
the same day as our executive committee, but just since we don't have it that much, it's not
In June?
in July.
Oh, you mean committee of the whole?
No.
Oh, I thought you were talking orientation, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, but you said the same day as executive.
Yeah.
So, but we don't have
Where it
executive
would
in
be, I know
July.
we don't have it, but like,
Oh, so like the
we'll
21st.
still keep that date open for all of us.
So June 21st,
July 20th.
July 21st, sorry.
That's a Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a after hour, like after 5? 5:30?
For what?
So the orientation on the 21st.
July when you won't be.
I mean, beyond tradition, what value does it have having the entire executive committee go to orientation?
I don't think we need the whole executive committee. Sorry, so the context, so we have 9.
I just jumped in, huh? Ain't nobody.
The new member one.
Yeah. Oh, cause I think, yeah, I don't know what happened with your year.
You didn't have an orientation?
What? No, sir.
Okay. So we usually do orientation. I love, all right. We have 9 new members. There might be 10 by that point, but 9. So normally it's like an orientation where they get to meet each other, learn a little bit about the board, who's who, what each committee does. And he talks about parliamentary procedure, Jim. So it's just like a little on the lighter side. I don't think we historically, and we changed it up the last 2 times, I think. It would be like every chair it would be like their pitch. You're trying to recruit, so you kind of like pitch what you want to do. But in hindsight, that wasn't as like effective because a lot of the things that they needed to know wasn't what they were learning. So yeah, not everybody needs to go, but it's just, do we do, or we don't do it? Like, I don't know.
Well, we're getting at least, what, 10 members? At least. It sounds like it's getting closer to 15 by the day,
No, it's 9. We just got the list.
including the people that just resigned.
1 is missing, so it'd be 10.
Okay, so it'd be 10. I think that 10 people should go through orientation, and I think we should focus more on once we have those people's information, trying to schedule around them rather than scheduling
That's a good
around
idea.
us.
Do we want to give them like 2, 3 options or?
Yeah,
So we have the 21st of July on the table. Pick a time.
So,
7 p.m.?
yeah.
Okay. Any other dates, times you can throw
You
out?
have to have refreshment.
Yes, we will have refreshments.
I think an orientation is also beneficial for new members to understand what is a community board, decorum, punctuality. I think that when people hear that message in a room, hopefully we're trying to get a commitment to the work.
Luana had volunteered to help organize the orientation, so in terms of like the agenda and all of that, do you want to throw out another date? That way we can send them at least 2 or 3.
Later in July, because I'm not sure yet, but I might be traveling. I mean, I'm still gonna help organize it. It doesn't mean that I'm gonna be present, but I would like to be present. I might be traveling the 10th through the next week, so maybe after that,
After this one,
yeah.
you want to do that Thursday, the 24th?
If it works for everybody else, then yeah.
Thursday,
We could do it the
Out
last
of the
week,
country that day.
the last week of July, I'll be back.
the week of the 28th, so let's say Wednesday, the
I mean, we
30th.
can do 2 dates in July and 1 in August. Would anybody be opposed to August? It is closer to, and it's a nice segue before we start session again. To put in an August date, or you don't like that, Kathy? Are you? gonna travel?
My schedule's a mess in August. I
Got
could
it.
do August like 7th.
So let's go for that.
The only thing I would say is that it has to be early August because I need their committee decisions by that following week. So I would say August 7th. Hold on, let me write this
There we
down.
go, 3 dates.
Is that a weekend?
That's a Thursday.
Do we,
Oh, I could do Friday the 8th.
I think if weekdays, it should just always be after 5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you want to throw in a weekend?
No, those sound fine. I don't. I think even they probably have day jobs, right? So,
Oh, yeah, after 5.
yeah.
I would assume that it would be like at 6 or 7.
Oh,
I would caution against a Friday because, you know, it's summer and people go away
yeah, I agree.
weekends and you don't want to be like, oh, you know, we have this orientation on Friday at 7 o'clock, so.
Okay, so we have July 21st, July 30th, and August 7th. All at 7, or as we want to do like a 6:30?
Maybe a little earlier.
When is
6,
August 7th? That's a Friday? We said not a Friday.
No, it's a Thursday.
Oh, got it.
So
Okay.
August
Thank you.
7th, let's say 6 for that one.
Okay.
6 is a little early. When people come out of work, it takes an hour.
So 6:30?
6:30 is good.
Okay. And then July 30th, we'll do 7 p.m. Okay. All right, cool. So we got that. The other thing we gotta schedule is a meeting of the whole for July. The only reason why we really do gotta book it is because of dining out. So that if we do get a dining out application, we'll do it at that meeting. Oh, wait a minute, isn't it usually, or should we just take the 21st as that,
Right, so why don't we take the 22nd, right? That's when we normally meet anyway.
no, the general's usually the 29th. Oh, no, it would be the 22nd, the 22nd,
yeah.
okay.
What's a dime?
Sorry, the dining, the sidewalk and the roadway,
Got it.
so. We'll put it, and then this year, if we don't have business like by that Monday, I'm down to like cancel it. Is that okay with people?
Yeah.
The July 22nd, so we'll put it as a hold for if we have business before us in the summer, that's the meeting that we will use. And that's usually, I think, at 7. Oops, sorry.
Like I said, only days on Mondays that are with me in July. For Mondays, because I'm working all over the day.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I have to be down at Marcus Garden by 3 and out. It's like.
Okay,
midnight.
cool.
Oh,
Can you
yeah.
remember, can you remind us who the
Lots of
old
fun.
members
Lots
are?
of happy.
Like who's no longer? with us?
Oh, yeah, hold on. All right, we've got calendars done. Anything else on the calendar? None, all right. So I guess this kind of leads to if you have anything on Alexis, because I technically don't have a chair report tonight. So we got the roster well, it came in on, I think, Thursday or Friday. I got it here today. So we have 9, potentially 10. members that are no longer members effective last week is, where's my post-it? Don't know, but Marielle, Barbara, oh, James Bosley, Chris Whitaker.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
He just resigned.
he just resigned actually. So yeah, so people who didn't reapply was Marielle, Barbara, James Bosley, Miriam.
He was on my list.
Yeah, and then who resigned, so Joseph is staying on through June. And Chris Whitaker resigned, I would say, I think effective last week. He got the Excelsior Fellowship, so that's why he had to move up to
Oh.
Albany. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was bittersweet for him, but,
I was an Empire Fellow.
I think that's it. So.
That doesn't affect any of those, the people that we mentioned that are getting the letters.
No, what it does affect is, so for housing, we don't have a chair right now. So Jay and Indiana are gonna tag team next month. And then we'll see if they can, hold that committee down in the fall or explore new assignments there. Obviously Mary's super affected, so that, without a vice chair. And then James Bosley was on your committee and Miriam, yeah.
Right.
So I gotta get you assignments ASAP.
No, I'm gonna need to talk to you about vice chair.
Okay. But so far, I would say I think those are the two biggest impacts we have. All right, the floor is yours, Alexis.
Okay, so, sorry, I've been asking permission for a long time.
You could pass
Kind
it.
of getting back in action. So, I'm going to do, we can look at it today, I don't know if we have time, if you want to do the general little look at that word of the AI, but I did just schedule myself to get a one-on-one demo with them, on Tuesday, the 27th at 3:00.
Hold on, I just have to switch accounts. Hmm.
And is that like AI note taking? What is
It's-
that? Yeah.
Note taking, it's translation and cloud. So they translate into like, I mean, at least 20 different languages.
So what is this that's going on?
So it had been brought up earlier, like, people want to know if we could use AI for meeting notes now, really, you know, it's good like to have as a backup tool. So we're just gonna see what this is about. Oh,
You organize.
Yeah.
No. Oops.
no,
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna look,
Okay.
Hmm.
and we're gonna try to see if we can do something. I'm gonna get the one-on-one demo. We're just gonna see if we can pull it up there.
Trying to find the email you sent me that had the options where we could see pricing and everything, but for some reason I can't see that email right now. Let me look up that. In the meantime, I don't know, do you want to talk about, so in the summer, I spoke about those two committees impacted. In the summer, post orientation, the call is basically they have, new members have the month to attend, explore, think about it. Orientation, you need to send the pics for your committees. And I also have a bunch of outstanding public member applications. So I guess I got a sense from people of like, do you want more members? Meaning you have more than 7, or even more than 9 members? Do you have a preference in, so a preference in numbers, or are there folks that you're like, hey, I think it's, you know, it's time to change some stuff up, like you want more new blood?
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I think at this point, we're gonna have to kind of like play the percentage turnover ratio and have as many as we can, hoping that we get at least half of what we have, because for people have so many occupations and things have changed, and we have to kind of like live with that reality and lower our expectations from what attendance is going to look like. I think that we're just gonna have to accept that and just have as many as we can, and just have as many as we can show up. I think that's the trend that I've noticed, not just on our board, but just in about every board that I've dealt with in the past couple of months. I just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah, the other thing that I think I don't know if it's CB9 or CB10 that they're doing that is something, especially for fall and next year, is our chairs and vice chairs looking at their terms. So like, do we have balanced chairs and vice chairs? So that way they're not both expiring in like 2 years. So I thought that was actually really good. I don't think we have that case, but just looking at like, what are the years that everybody on each committee is expiring? So have a little bit more variety. So that's another one of the million factors to consider.
We had talked at one point about having the public members reapply. Is that anything that's in the works or what's happening with that?
I had,
Right?
so they have, yeah, and the timing is also something.
My public members involved in all this for you?
Yeah, so, and that's why some of them got a little mad. They're like, what do you mean I need to reapply? I've never done this after years. And so I had them reapply. And so we changed it up a bit, but it works on a calendar year, which I don't know how effective that is, but it's basically from January to December. I think in our bylaws is that they have to apply, or no, in the procedure. So for this upcoming December, but that timing doesn't really work when we have appointments, you know? So like right now, we assign everybody. Then in like the fall, we might be able to say, okay, this is when I have like some positions I can fill. But by the time January comes, it's like we don't really have space for public members. So I don't know, it's kind of tricky to figure out, but we have both to consider. So I might consider over the summer, or I guess I need to know from folks, like, what committees do you think you really want a public member? And also we need to be mindful of the ratio for public members, because I think it's, what is it, like a third? A fourth, can't be more of each
I
one?
think it's a third. The bylaws,
Yeah.
I'll double check.
But there's a number basically you can't pass. And I know a lot of us want public members, so we gotta be real like strategic. If you want or identified a public member, why? Like, what is it that they're bringing to your committee that another board member can't? So that's gonna be important, because I think I'm gonna have to let some people know that it's just gonna be kind of like wait and see. Okay, Alexis, I have the thing for you. Oh, Ebenezer, can you make me co-host? Sorry. Am I? Oh, never mind. Sorry. Okay. Do folks want to see the video? Why can't I share sound?
You have to click on it.
No, it's not letting
It's not
me.
letting you?
Let me see my code.
The option to share sound.
That's weird. It doesn't even let me click on any of them. Thank you, Ebenezer. Let me see what I'm gonna-
The green ones on here are new people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you.
okay.
Green one. Green one. Green. Green.
Sorry, folks. All right, let's
There you go, Alexa.
see. Okay. All right, so this is Wordly. Folks on Zoom, if the sound's not working, let me know.
No, I can't hear anything, no.
Can't hear anything,
Okay.
Kathy.
I don't know why it's not letting me share sound. Hmm. Yeah, it literally doesn't let me click the option to share sound. All right, what I'm gonna do is just put it in the chat for folks. And I'm gonna put two links in the chat. One is like their pricing structure, and the other is the video overview
For what?
for the interpretation platform,
Which is?
Wordly. This is the one Wordly it's called. That's what I was trying to show, but it's not letting me share. So mouse is pretty slow. Where's my chat? And then I'm gonna share for our members also pricing. Anything else you had, Alexis? I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, so next month, I guess we'll hear back from you from your demo. Okay. Cool. All right, anything else anybody got for our secretaries, I should say?
Liam did. I'll find it. We have a report from, I think this report said last month how many hours we used, right?
Yeah, we have it too. Noemi downloaded it, so I can send you that. All right, cool. So we want to turn to, I guess, the member guidance documents.
Okay, so last month I shared that I was developing a number of procedures for each of our executive officers, namely just taking what is in the bylaws, putting it into paper, and then providing a set of guidelines around each of the responsibilities that the executive officers have to satisfy in their roles. So I have completed the drafting of each of those procedures and have shared them with the current officers that they relate to. We're now moving forward with adopting those procedures as guidelines for each of those roles. They will eventually become available on our member hub for the rest of the board to review. This, I think, is a great idea, especially for members who are interested in specific roles. Now they can look at these in addition to the bylaws and see what will be expected from them as executive officers, as the particular role that they're looking to fulfill. It's also great with contingency planning. So when there is an officer that steps down suddenly, or is no longer part of the board, whoever transitions into that role now has a document that they could review and understand what will be expected of them in that role. This is, I view, as a best practice for any organization that has a leadership body like ours does. It's really great for someone to be able to have a resource that they can look back on. It's also good for consistency purposes, right? The end goal will be that as we evolve, we'll update these procedures probably a little bit more frequently than we would the bylaws. The bylaws obviously have to go through a pretty big amendment process whenever we make changes to them. And I'll speak as when I was a member on the bylaws task force. You know, a lot of things that I was advocating to put in there, right, Daryl, are things that I think we agreed were a little bit more procedural in nature, and that was sort of the genesis of this exercise. That said, once we're at a position where we are making changes to these procedures, we're updating them, we're taking in feedback, it will be this committee's responsibility to approve those procedures. So you'll see probably some points in the future where we're making those material edits. We'll have conversations about the edits at this meeting and then approve them as needed. Okay. I'll start with Mary. Yeah.
That's gonna include the chairs and vice chairs of the committees?
No, so that will remain with the guidebook that Kathy was putting together. This is just the elected officers.
Got it.
Jim?
I would suggest, you know, less formal thing than we did with the bylaws, that you actually make the drafts available to the whole board. And then they could give you comments which may or may not be helpful. And this committee then would ultimately decide whether to accept the comments or whatever, but I think, you know, well, two things, I mean, transparency is good for its own sake, but the reason it's good is you get more feedback, and you know, I consider you a very clever young man, but, you know, more eyes looking is even better.
Agreed. No, for sure. In your perspective, is that something that we can do outside of a meeting? Like-
Yeah, we could mention in a meeting that the bylaws, are, you know, you put them on some website somewhere.
Yeah,
And then create some voluntary procedure for feedback with some deadline.
yeah.
And then if members have something to say, they can tell us.
Kathy, what do you think? Can we do that? I'm not.
Yeah, I'm
opposed
trying to think about, no, I think it's fine. I think we just have to put like similar to the survey, like you have a comment period.
Yep.
Not everybody has Google Doc, so I'm trying to figure out.
I mean,
best
we could
route.
tell people if you want, you could pick up a hard copy in the office and redline it if you want to.
But we, I mean, maybe
As
we could send
needed.
both.
Yeah,
Like, does that work? Like we attach a PDF, include a Google Doc link.
yeah, yeah.
And people have to send it by a certain time. We could send it through the mailer light because we have to send like the survey reminder and we have to send the upcoming event. So we could just do like one big email in the next week or whenever
Okay.
you want to send it.
Yeah, and I have no problem consolidating the edits
Okay.
and feedback. Procedure?
So this will be in lieu, or this will replace, or this will add to the bylaws, so this is a totally different document. Where we will have to adhere to procedure matters as to how we interact with one another, because everything has to be formatted. right?
Yeah. So it will add to the bylaws. The idea is, so in the bylaws, when you go to the article that talks about the executive officers and their responsibilities, each responsibility is one line, right? So it's very hard for I think any person to crystallize, you know, what something would be without doing it in practice and learning from each other. But obviously that takes time. And so thinking with these procedures is help make it a little bit more efficient when someone is transitioning into a role.
Yeah, like I think maybe in your case, like meetings, let's say with the secretary, it'll be, oh, you have to meet with the office by this date in order to pull these documents. This is what these documents look like. And those aren't things that usually go in the bylaws, so
Right.
this would be helpful for that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Carmen had her hand, sorry.
Oh,
Can you just clarify, because Anthony, you just said that this would be in the bylaws. So you said currently there's only like one line, but are these procedures or are these amendments to the bylaws? I guess I'm just trying to understand how we just added there. But maybe I just got
There.
confused by that last comment.
yeah, no worries. They're irrespective of the bylaws, but they use the bylaws to build off of. So they reference the bylaws, so to speak. The bylaws themselves are not being changed at all. But when you were, let's say you double click in the secretary's procedure and you scroll through it, you'll see I've taken each of those one-line bullets out of the bylaws and put them into the procedure and then expanded on what it actually means.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Darrell had her.
Darryl?
And then this is, just so I'm clear, these are best practices. These are things that folks could do, but don't have to do.
No, the thinking is they're governing documents, right? Here's how I would do it. I think without them, I think we can get ourselves into a position where the officers may not be meeting their minimum standards because, as Kathy just said, the bylaws don't necessarily establish deadlines. At no point in the bylaws, for example, does it say the secretary must have the meeting minutes of the last general meeting by the office by this deadline so that the board can review them. Right? So that's in essence what the procedure is doing. It's saying, in order for us to actually meet the responsibilities we have in these bylaws, these are the things we have to do month over month, week over week, quarter over quarter.
I'm also just thinking if people maybe don't live up to every, letter of this,
Yeah.
this cannot be used against them for removal.
I mean, no, there's no, truthfully, it doesn't have that much in terms of teeth other than reputational risk, right? Because then the board knows there's this document, I, as a board member, can review it, and I can see that this elected officer isn't meeting these standards. So maybe I'll choose not to vote for them again. But you can't be removed for it, no.
Mhm.
Any other questions about these procedures? Again, I imagine there'll be a little bit more living than the bylaws are. Bylaws don't get amended that often, but these I hope we can keep
Mhm.
iterating on, make better, yeah.
Well, I just wanna sort of amplify what you're saying, because there are these minimal standards that, for example, if we pick on the secretary again, the secretary must, nothing personal, the first vice chair must do. And everyone should know what they are, and they in particular should know what they are, so they do them.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Okay, so let's say, when do we want to send it out and how long do we want to get like the comment period for from people?
My goal was to have them ready to go, like kind of in their final first version as we went into the fall. So I guess if we can give the board through the summer if they wanted, or like some arbitrary deadline halfway through the summer, and then I can take those and work on them.
Just as a suggestion, I think maybe they should be done and voted on before what October is when the officer thing starts, like elections start. With that first thing in October.
Yeah, I wasn't say, I don't know if, I don't think it has to be voted on though. Like, I think it's just like, we
Well, this
draft
body
it.
Would have to adopt
This,
it.
I guess.
Do we have to vote? Okay.
Well, we can't just make things up.
No, but I mean, it's not like, a like, I mean,
Well,
kind of
the
is.
thing is, you know, this is created, again, not to pick on the first last year, like Anthony, and it can't be Anthony.
I agree.
said, You know.
Yeah.
But, so I think if this body, you know, puts its stamp on it, that, we could even have the board vote on it.
So then that means September or?
I agree with that, yeah.
Okay.
We
So
might
then-
even want the board to vote, because then they can all look at it and, you know, because these, as we implied, you know, these are standards that, you know, at least very informally, we expect the officers to adhere.
Yeah.
And I would suggest the full board vote on it because otherwise it's us voting on about us.
Yeah.
And that just seems
Yeah.
weird.
I agree.
I
with you.
agree.
I was just gonna say,
Okay,
Alright, I love that.
so September.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, sorry. I thought it looked like a virtual background. All right, so then we'll send it out as soon as we got it, and then I would say from June through early, like first week of August. And then we get the month to clean it up. All right. That's done. Anything else?
Kathy, before we just move to ahead in the agenda, we were talking about members and surveys and all the people that are leaving and new people that are onboarding. Are we sending those exit surveys that we created to the people that are leaving? Because some of them
Yes.
have already been gone, so just want to put that on your radar to make sure that we're doing that.
Thank you for the reminder.
You're very welcome.
Let me see if we could send that tomorrow. Mhm. Okay, cool. All right, so I guess we do have a reso before us, so maybe, do you want to cover that first before we talk about, okay. Let's cover the reso. Yeah.
Kathy, sorry, Marielle here. Just wanted to follow up on what Carmen shared. I think, I mean, happy to kind of do a transition call with you. I think that's also really important as well. So in addition to the exit survey, particularly those of us who are currently holding positions and kind of stepping down, I think there's a lot of historical knowledge and background that we can share before we head off. So I'll follow up with you offline on that.
Oh,
Thanks.
perfect, I appreciate that. Okay. So we all got, do you need a copy of the reso or?
I do need a copy.
I have this one. I'm gonna pull it up.
That's it? Do you want to add something, Tanisha, before I start?
No, Chair.
So, I haven't been able to attend some of our committee meetings, for the past 2 previous months. Been working on something. But I've been graced to have a great, what is it?
Vice Chair.
Vice Chair in the Youth and Education Committee. And we've been able to steamroll and not lose momentum. And I say that to say that several months ago, we had several parents raise concerns around the need for just programming for kids with autism in the district. We really took it and prioritized this because that was the first time where parents started engaging us about what they felt we needed. So the committee started working together and trying to figure out ways of making sure that we aligned what we were going to propose as a resolution with what was being asked. While I was away, I've been doing a bit of research. I added the citation to the resolution as well, but I found a lot of information on when we say mental health, it's literally starting in kindergarten, the lack of, which I feel that as we start saying that we're looking to combat this mental health pandemic that we're experiencing, right? That we look to address issues that our communities are facing. I think it starts with simple things that we could start introducing to our schools to combine them from at the institutional level. I was able to, with some guidance from Tanisha, understand what NEST, what Horizon, what AIM programs are, right? I didn't talk about AIM too much in this reso because AIM is targeted specifically for District 75 schools. So I focused more on NEST and Horizon, which are programs that we can introduce to school buildings immediately. So we present this resolution as a way of addressing concerns that parents within our communities have, and just trying to figure out ways where we encourage the DOE to start addressing these issues directly within our schools as we continue to combat the mental health stigma and a lot of the variations of how mental health impacts our community.
I'd like to add, so I just want to be clear that autism is a neurological thing. If we talk about mental health, yeah, with the parents, because a lot of our parents' mental health is not okay because they cannot get the services that they need for their children who learn differently. And then if our children aren't getting the services that they need, then later on, that does affect their mental health. So if we could really, advocate and present a united front on, the fact that more children are being diagnosed with autism every day. Science is finally catching up with the need of what it looks like for an autistic child and what a spectrum is, because you can have mildly autistic all the way to severe autistic and nonverbal. So it is some support that we need desperately in our schools, in our community. And we have too many schools to only have one NEST program.
We only have one in this community.
That's what I'm saying. We have too many children,
Yeah.
and something that we hear from our community members, our parents a lot is, why do they have to bust their child out the district to get in some of these programs? And a lot of our parents are just busting their children, their autistic children, to D75 programs. It's not necessarily, it's a need across the city for more programs like this. So, while we fight for class size matters and so many other things, this is important too. So I really appreciate my committee coming out with this resolution. Thank you.
Marielle, and then we'll go around. We literally
Yeah,
go around.
so before we start providing recommendations, all I'm gonna say is any friendly amendments that we will accept, we need it in writing. So if
I got
you
it.
email us the language, we'll.
Let's start with Marielle and then we'll go through Jim and.
Great, thank you. So in full disclosure, I have not had a chance to review, so I will review in detail and send any friendly amendments. Thank you for this. As a parent of two neurodivergent children, thank you. It's so needed. So I guess a couple of things. As you know, I'm on the panel for educational policy. One of the things that we're trying to do, so this is with my PEP hat on, one of the things that we're trying to do is really take a bit of a forward look of what it looks like when we do school utilization proposals. And this is where things like the Horizon program, NEST, and potential D75 schools would look like. So let's continue to kind of stay in touch. I have a couple contacts across the DOE that we can kind of talk about. It is certainly a need, and definitely something that is on our radar. So thank you for this.
Also.
Yeah,
It's
and,
great.
and I wanted to make sure also that I reached out to several principals to get their inputs as well. I sent it out to the superintendent as well.
Yep.
He's gonna be sending some, I just wanted him to review the data to make sure it's correct, because I got it from from the portals that they input their data to. So I'm assuming it has to be correct. But just to be clear, one of the components that we're also adding is 27% of this district are English as a new language learners, right? Which used to be English language learners. So one resolve that I try to make real, as we engage the DOE, is that all these programs have to be accessible to English language learners by incorporating bilingual staff and culturally responsive teaching practices as well. So it's not solely about providing these services, but making sure that these services get to these kids and students with techniques that they understand. I just want to be clear on that, because some schools do have this program, but they lack the ability to be able to have that bilingual special education teacher. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's gonna, it's a very important barrier to access that we have to address.
100%. Just really quickly, so just so you know, on language access, with the PEP, we're voting on an amendment to the Chancellor's Regulation A663, which is about access to, expanding language access from 9 languages to 11 languages. So stay tuned for that. That'll happen in June. Thanks.
Forward to working with
How many?
you. 11.
Jim, go ahead.
9 to 11?
Yeah.
Thank you. I want to sort of first, extend what Tanisha was saying, and then also Marielle. There's actually a distinction between mental health and neurodivergence. Not that everyone, whatever condition they have, has to be treated appropriately and fairly and productive. But autism is a form of neurodivergence. Their brains work differently. They're not mentally ill, sort of implied, and often it's the case your brain isn't working right.
Yeah.
But in their case, in fact, as we know, and I will only say this curse word once, Mr. Musk, that disgusting piece of garbage, is actually on the
Yeah.
and we can see that because he cannot deal with people. He's not a human being. Very good with his rocket. So that's one distinction that we have to keep in mind. And, like I said, whatever disability one has, and mental illness is definitely a disability, that all has to be properly dealt with supports, whatever. But neurodivergence is a separate thing.
Correct.
So,
And I don't want the introduction of this take away from the resolution, right?
No, but
Because when we say mental health, right,
well, don't say mental health.
we're addressing something that unfortunately gets lumped all together regardless. So-
It says mental health, any place that says, then add and neurodiversity.
Yeah, so there's no, if you read it, there's no place that says mental health in this resolution.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Right. But it wouldn't hurt to say neurodiversity.
neurodiversity.
Which just means that they learn differently.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Because I have an
exactly.
8-year-old nonverbal grandson, and he understands everything that comes out my mouth. He just can't speak, and, we gotta make the distinction. They're not, like, we have this perception or something that, something is wrong with them mentally, and it's not. It's just the way that they're born. Their brains, are wired differently than ours. And that
In
should
fact,
be
it's
supported.
maybe that their brains in some ways actually work better than.
Yeah.
So thank you for correcting me. I'm gonna take it back.
Right.
Neurodivergent, let's stay on topic though, because
But
this
again-
doesn't mention it at all.
Right.
Yeah, Isidro,
Not done yet.
Well, back and forth.
No, back, no, I'm not done yet.
Well, you.
Okay,
think-
Jim, let's
Go ahead.
go. Cause we got more.
The other thing is the last bit result says the community board will be program monitor. Who at community board?
Well, we have staff.
Well, is it, then you should say the community board staff.
Okay, I'll accept that for you.
Thank you.
Because-
Specific, it ain't gonna happen.
Because at the end of the day, the problem that I have with not adding that is, I believe when we were talking about, the bylaws, we were always questioning like who follows up when we write our resolutions. So this is a way of making sure that our resolution gets followed up on. That was why I added that, just a FYI.
It's a really good point, and I'm glad that you guys are working on this matter, because it's an issue that's been silent for too long. I myself, I encountered this problem, and I didn't know how big it was. To the point that, once I found out that practically every single family know or has someone, I decided to do fundraising. We have some activities for kids that are going through this issue. I would just, I'm not finished.
Okay, I take my compliment back.
So I think that when I read this and I just speak through it, I think that we might want to highlight the fact that there is this program. But maybe you want to know, like, compared to the communities, how many NEST programs they have compared to us. Maybe a comparison can be made. Also, maybe a bit of a background about this program might help. what it actually do.
It's there in the whereas, like what is the program and what it provides?
Cool. And then like, what else?
So the reason I didn't want to compare Isidro, because it's not about anybody else, but identifying, because actually this district is one of the best districts for kids that live in the community stay in the district to go to schools. But enrollment has declined since 2018. So that's a creative way of thinking about how do we bring our kids back, right? We lost 18% of these kids, right? Let's see if we diversify what the programming schools offer. This might be a population that is reintroduced back because they're not being served.
So it seems like 95% of students that go through this program, from what I read here, graduate.
Correct.
That's a really high success rate.
Yeah.
And
30% above the city's percentage.
Wow. So that means that, this program actually works.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a way or mechanism to see how we can advocate to bring more programs like this to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I agree.
We have 3 more hands, hold on, so I wanna go quickly.
Yeah, but I just want to answer your question, have a comment. Sorry, I gotta wait. When we talk about NEST programs, like overall, the 5 boroughs, there is way more need than
Than
actual
seats,
programs.
yeah.
Kids can be on waiting lists for a long time because there's just not enough capacity to serve. It's like class size matters. It's just not.
And Tanisha, what's the first thing that got cut last year from the DOE?
Therapy.
No, special education funding, and that's where they get their money.
And we're not even talking about the new budget and how the foundation aid formula is gonna give us less money because they just take our
And
recommendations.
therapy is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
All right, so Daryl's had his hand up, we literally going around the table, we're gonna end with Anthony before we vote.
2 questions. On the second to last resolve, where we name the elected officials, do we normally do that? Or can we just take the
No, we
elected
usually
normally?
do that.
Even though, okay,
Yep.
2 of them may not be here, but I mean, they will be here, but it's likely they.
Every
The end of
person
the year.
I appointed, wrote there, either has a piece of our district and also appoints board members to, the board. That's how I added them based on
Either
that.
or.
Yeah.
Okay. And my other question was for the, I think it's 5th, whereas, where it talks about the Bach school. Do we have any like stats on the success that they've experienced?
I haven't been able, I didn't necessarily because since that's elementary school, the success is usually measured when they graduate high school. So one thing I could tell you is during the track, those kids are more likely to graduate from high school than drop out.
Than kids that are just thrown into random D79 as general, which we
Yeah.
have a problem with anyway.
So
And where is that school?
the Juan Bosch,
Yeah,
it's in the community. I just didn't want to put it because I didn't find it, like, it's just a search away if you look it up.
yeah, no, but I was just scared, like
It's in Washington Heights,
like
and I
maybe there's
think,
nothing for like the top 3 miles of the.
so what happened was, that's where we figured that out, because they're the only Nest program, there's no Horizon programs. And the family that came to us sends her child to the Bronx because that school didn't have space, nor there was, there are other programs. So that's when we got alerted, and that's when we started doing this digging.
Even the AIM programs inside the D75 are not enough. There's not enough of them. There's not like an AIM program in every D75.
So for instance, right, so
Yeah.
86% is elementary, 82% are middle schools, right? What it's basically saying is citywide, there's approximately 10,000 kids that need these services. Yeah, so there is, according to the numbers, it's only 166 of both programs combined. And each program usually, the license is for 33 kids. So you're talking about less than, 3,000 kids, under 4,000 kids are getting services. So there's 6,000 kids that are falling through the crack. And usually, I'm telling y'all right now, charter schools don't provide these services because these kids come into the public school system in November when they get removed from charter schools after they got the funding. And that's what we figured out right after.
The official enrollment budget goes out, a lot of, whether they're artistic or not, a lot of our kids in the charter schools get thrown back into public schools without the money.
Because all they say is, we can't provide services for you, find another school for your child.
Wow.
And just, they're on Elwood and Bogardus, so
Yeah,
it's kind of.
Oh, I know which one.
So, and that's uptown.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you two have a comment specific to the?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because mine is in general, so I can go
Yeah,
last.
no, I have a question and also a comment. So for being familiar with the public educational system, public school system, I'm just wondering if somebody were to see this and they know that, for example, that schools already provide services, services via ICT, right? Integrated co-teaching, then how can we strengthen the argument that these services that already exist in public schools are not enough?
This is a well-known fact.
Yeah.
This is something that tomorrow is, the education committee hearing oversight.
Yeah.
This is something that we work with the chair on all the time. This is something that is known
Right.
across the city.
Oh, yeah, I know, yeah.
That,
Yeah.
I don't think that we have to,
Yeah.
go
Okay.
overboard talking about something that everyone already knows. We already know that 1 in 31 children are diagnosed with autism nationwide.
As of
When it was
2025.
36.
No, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
agreeing, I'm
Yeah,
completely
what I'm saying?
agreeing,
I don't,
yeah.
like, this is something I think that frankly, we should have been talking about and working on. So it's a known thing for parents and for our school community, even if we talk about our administrators, that there's a big need for it and it's
For
not.
additional programming.
So
Right.
when you say
So-
ICT, these programs are like siloed, right? You're talking about curriculum programs where trained teachers are coming in. Like, there's more supports when you get categorized as a Horizon.
So it's like a Montessori thing, right? Similar, it's like a curriculum already
Yes.
packaged.
There's services, yeah,
them.
Package.
To
exactly.
them.
So now you have,
Neurological needs.
Yeah.
To their behavior needs, their stimulation. There's one thing I think we should put in there is whereas our children also need sensory areas.
Multisensory
We
learning.
don't have anything in the community where we can take our autistic children that is sensory alert for the things that, calm them, for the things that, they like. So that's another thing that, is not in here. Like, we should be thinking about it when we're creating parks. We should be thinking about, what are the things that, our children who learn differently, and have, different things going on with them that they can also interact. We don't think like that. And we have this real one size fit all. And that's why so many of our children are not really learning.
we're
My,
gonna
my
keep it going
other
for this.
thing, I just want to make sure that when you're saying that you want to provide services, it's for multilingual learners that are neurodivergent. Because in this whereas, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you're now separating the kids who are neurodivergent, who are on the spectrum, to just like English language learners in isolation.
No, that whereas is information about the composition of this district and how the result takes into account that while we have multilingual learners, there should be capacity for bilingual staff as well. So it's not necessarily about differentiating, it's about identifying a population that composes this district and then reinforcing it with the need for, once you understand that this population is there, access could be limited if the staff member is not bilingual. That's why the result interconnects.
Yeah, those are my two
I have a
questions, clarifications.
I have an amendment for the last resolve. I think it should say to what Jim just said, instead of that community board 12's
Oh,
office.
I
I know, instead of that, it should say that community board 12 instructs its staff to monitor.
I can write it however y'all want. I just want my resolution to have a follow-up. That's why
That is the
just-
strongest language to get you.
Yeah, so, yeah, whatever, yeah.
Okay, I added it here. Marielle said to add
So
slash call
that's
for.
okay, right? Yeah, so
Um,
as long as our resolution gets followed, that's all we care about.
That's how you do it. Yeah.
Yeah, all the language, the semantics, y'all got it.
Marielle suggested to add the call for updates to chancellor's regulation. It's a regulation for language access in the schools. In your, I forget, it's called now NYC Public School.
All
And then
friendly
let me
amendments, please send. Thank you.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say, actually, I think, and this isn't just in general, not language here, is I feel like this is a really great reso example of, or like a need in the district or in a service in the district that not one that the office can be more diligent with, but also that I think that we can easily kind of like own over the next few years. So, and we do gotta get better around budget season, but for this fall, when we're contemplating what we're requesting funding for and being more strategic about it, I do recommend that this be on the list. It's also something that like I don't recall over the years on the board that people have spoken about any of the programs. So just sharing that.
And this is just a note, because for 20 years I was a teaching artist and I was in District 75 particularly. They used to develop programs with percussion and dance that elicited language for kids who are nonverbal. I was never sent up here. I was never uptown. I was in Bronx all the time, Brooklyn, and mostly Queens. Never was I sent to a school up here uptown. Never was I in Washington Heights, Inwood, nothing. Never sent.
I really like when I say something. Because I think that you brought something that perhaps is a cultural nature. Some of our background, whenever kids act in a different way, they always get labeled. Some children thought, oh, that's crazy. It shouldn't be like that. So I think also education at this point has to be established because I think for far too long, people have said, like, this kid might not have a problem, but the problem is there. And we want to, as a culture, try to put this problem aside. It will get better, but will never get better. So as a culture, we are trained that these type of issues are something that it could be transitional when it's not.
Well, the
And
same
our
with
culture-
programming.
Yeah,
They just didn't have programs. I wasn't sent to any programs because that existed for kids that were autistic up in this neighborhood. I was always sent for kids who were autistic, Brooklyn, Bronx and Queens.
Not a girl.
Never was I sent over here. And
Okay.
then just because, just a note. And they did ask me to go to Staten Island, but I don't consider that a borough.
So, and back to it, right? Like the importance of, I got here a little late. What Anthony was talking about was the way that, like, even though we write a lot of resolutions, Tanisha sent a great template, and I think that's what really helps people. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, so it's like stuff like that, it makes it easier, because that made writing it a lot easier.
Okay, awesome. All right. So everybody's talked about it. No, we got some edits and people gotta write it over email. Can we vote? Are we ready to vote? We gonna vote?
Oh, yes.
All right. Oh, the list.
Can I have the list?
Yeah, I was look selected on it. This is you.
This is where I go.
You're like, that is? Okay, were you gonna say something else before we? Oh, okay, so we'll do a roll call. I'll go from the bottom up. So
Sorry, I just have a quick question. Because I was trying to see the resolution, it's calling on our elected officials to help implement these programs.
There's a result, and I sent it to all of them too.
There's
the last one.
there's a urge for, sorry, there's multiple calls. So there's calls to the DOE,
Okay,
calls towards the District 6 superintendent and to our electeds, and then the office to follow up.
okay. For the DOE, put in Office of District Planning. Because that's the exact office that's responsible for that.
That's the office that came up.
Yep. And I just got confirmation from someone, so yeah.
Department or district, you said?
Office of District Planning.
If I could comment on that, we are not talking to this office, we are talking to the damn Department of Education. They
Yes.
deal with their office.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're
I
right.
want to put it in parentheses.
You're right.
where
Yeah,
they
yeah.
do something.
But I think it's important to specify it. I agree with you.
I agree with you.
Important to be specific.
You could just
If
put it
we
in
keep it
parentheses.
broad, then
Don't worry.
the accountability falls on the entire Department of Education and the Chancellor, and we might have a new Chancellor.
I've been doing this
All right.
longer than you.
Okay.
I'll
Roll
talk to them next
call.
week about it.
We'll send you the resolution.
Timberland.
I'm here, but I'm not here. I'm technically not
That's
a member.
true.
I sent you almost updated.
I don't know who's all on there. Noble?
We love you being here.
Sorry?
Noble's on?
No.
Oh, okay. Domingo,
Yes.
Luana,
Yes.
Eleazar,
He's here.
Eleazar Bueno,
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Wayne Benjamin.
Here on his behalf.
Oh, right. Oh,
I sent it to Jay.
Isidro,
Yes.
Mariella,
I cannot vote due to conflict because I'm a member of the panel for educational policy. Thank you.
Mario.
okay. Steve Simon,
Yes.
is Joel here?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay.
Mary Anderson,
Yes.
Leo's not here? Or
No,
is he on? No.
Joel's on some.
I vote yes. Alexis,
Yes.
Tanisha,
Yes, sir.
Anthony,
I vote yes.
Ms. Diaz?
Yes.
No. Did I miss anybody? I got Steve.
Joel. Okay.
You got my vote, right? Darryl?
Yep.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Perfect. Good. Thank you. He's at work. All right. Any other who else besides licensing has resos before the board this month?
We're looking at like how many?
Yeah, mine.
Wow. Okay.
We have a resident for housing.
On, that.
Yes, we do.
Oh, the rent guidelines board. right?
We have
Yeah.
Rent Guidelines Board, we have HPD down, the down payment grant. And then if we can also talk about the letter on the Fort Washington Collegiate Church. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we got those two. TNC, what do you guys have?
About the street cafe on Indian Road.
Does that have to go to the full board too?
Everything has to be.
We can't,
I thought it.
Otherwise, you approve.
let me see how they're doing it downtown, because it's like, it's already, I mean, I guess it goes to the full board and it just goes on our website.
I think the point you're making is it's already approved,
Yeah,
but if we comment on it, really the full board should.
okay.
Nothing should be done by just the committee. And the other thing I wanted to, actually hear, this letter about the collegiate church. Insofar as we as the board say anything, that has to be, the board itself has to pass a resolution that we want to see.
Mm-hmm. So let me start with that one, because we were talking over email about it. So there was a call, right, from folks who, not the same folks, but just general vibe of folks who came to the public meeting, to the general meeting last month, and have requested, right, like a formal reso. And then part of it is because of the timing. I think they had like a meeting tomorrow, so they were asking for kind of like something rushed. And in this case, I felt like I wouldn't ratify something because for multiple reasons. And one, there's different opinions on the board about the situation. So I feel like generally if I ratify something, it's because it's like there's some consensus. Two, we've only heard directly from one out of like 4 different parties, meaning like the church board, what do they call it? The actual consistory, the main church itself. And so what I had proposed was not a letter of support, but just a letter asking the consistory to engage with the board. And that was something that I was like, well, within as like the role of chair, that's kind of like standard of, hey, we've heard voices from folks who were congregants, members who care about multiple issues. We as the board want to engage with you and want to know what, one, I mean, outside of the programs, but one, what's the actual maintenance plan for the site? So in the coming months, we don't know, like, is there somebody do they have a grounds caretaker? Like, what's gonna actually happen there? And then, two, being able to engage us in terms of any planning for the actual site itself. That's kind of like where I responded to members of housing, because I know that there was appetite for that, but I don't think that right now is a moment for, like, I just don't think I could rush it in that way.
If I could add to that, based upon what I think a lot of us have been hearing, the vote that will be occurring tomorrow will be occurring the way it's gonna plan to be occurring, whether we say anything or not. And, in the famous story where the little prince orders the sun to rise, he gets away with it because he knows damn well the sun's gonna rise. If we say don't do something and we know they're gonna do it anyway, it doesn't really help our, whatever you want to call it,
Can you explain what the vote is tomorrow?
the consistory, whatever it is, the main body of the church, they will be voting to disband the congregation in Washington. That's what they already said they were doing for a long time.
That's what I'm.
And basically, that is what's gonna happen. As I understand.
So I have a question. This has been going on for so long, like why, like, why are efforts put so last minute? Like, that's like the only question I have. Because I remember it was supposed to be a school. They were supposed to develop it. There were so many different, and then it just went silent for years. And all of a sudden now, everybody's like, let's mobilize. But you had like 3-4 years in the interim, and I understand COVID, you know what I'm saying? But
They had a steady tenant that pulled out before their lease was up.
And also they've been struggling for a long while. It's that they sit on my board And it seems like this has been going back, I said, maybe to 7 to 8 years back.
Well, because they
Yeah,
have,
no,
do they have a board though? Like, could the board
There's a board.
president come
Yeah.
talk to us and see like?
There's a board.
And so that's exactly what I was saying, like, as, you know, based on the bylaws, like, my role is to be like voice or like kind of spokesperson. So for me, it felt like we can do a letter, just a simple letter saying, hey, we've heard loud and clear from congregant members. We got questions, please engage us.
Mhm.
I think that, you know, obviously on that point, like, there are folks who are part of that church community and like very active, and that doesn't necessarily mean that like, we knew for years that they were having trouble and they needed something quick, because I think they came in like 2021 or 2022. But that doesn't mean like somebody who went to service knew the level of like detail that we do. And I also want to just be mindful of like, when we as a board get called into disputes. So I don't know another way of saying it, but like, there's often times that we get pulled in to kind of like weigh in on one side versus another. And I think that like, while there are other groups and bodies that can do that, our role's about the district overall, and especially like, we have to be a little bit more cautious given that it is it's a church. So I think our role is really about like, it's a space in the district that we want to know like is going to be well maintained. There are people who live in this district who have programs that run there, like the Alcoholics Anonymous and like a lot of the other community programs they mentioned. So it's kind of just like, hey, if you just let the people know if you're gonna move it or continue it. So I just kinda yeah.
This is the church on 181st, right?
Yeah.
So Chris from my committee actually is a member of this church, and he's saying that there's basically like a hall, not a hall, but like a event space that they're currently renting. If anybody's interested, to rent that space out, it can help them. So that's something to put out there. I don't know exactly how big this space is, but I know it's in the first floor. So that's something that may be.
Pretty big.
It looks like a school.
Actually, we could have hosted our thing there.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Just realized.
They do have a gym, so it's, I tried to make a nonprofit there. I tried to rent space there myself a little bit. But like you said, we must be really, really cautious because there are a lot of dividing parts there. There are a lot of division in the leadership, so we gotta be able to go.
Steve.
Do we know, is this impacting voting for that area?
Yes,
This
well,
year?
no, they would have to get a new polling place.
No, like for next month, I guess.
Oh,
Is it,
no, I don't think it's that immediate.
For the general-
End of June.
so for the general election, it will impact.
It will.
Well, the congregation's being disbanded, but that doesn't mean that like to Joel's point, that the space isn't being rented, that the other like spaces that they actually use, including polling, may
Well,
be
we have no
affected.
idea what they plan to do after June 30th.
Right.
After they shut down the church congregation. I think this is a very special place in Washington Heights. It's a very unique location. It's a beautiful church and with an incredible setting. And what I would support is a resolution from this board calling upon the Landmarks Preservation Commission to consider designating the site as a landmark to make sure that the church is not torn down. I would like to see it preserved.
Didn't that pop up at land use?
May I comment since they came to
Yeah.
my committee and presented? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kathy. On your point, Steve, my understanding is that they did look into that and apparently it wasn't eligible. I don't know like the full details, but that's what I understand because that was something that was brought up. I also know that they have engaged Congressman Espaillat's office. I'm not sure how far that engagement has, gone to and what exactly they're planning. I hear you, Kathy, on being mindful of the role of the board, and I understand that, and I think it's fair. I think it's, to be clear, it's not just the church itself, it's all of the other spaces as well. So they also rent out the space to a local synagogue, and they have their services there. There's, as others have mentioned, lots of community programs as well that are open to congregants and non-congregants. So it's really a community-wide loss. And they did talk quite a bit around the impact of that loss and what that means. The community fridge, where we have lines every Saturday with, people lining up, waiting to get food. They did share with me kind of some of those details. I do want to press on the fact that this meeting is happening tomorrow. So I recognize that we need to decide on, what's happening tonight. I have a lot of information that they provided, and I can share that with you so that we can get that resolved as soon as possible. Thank you.
I guess what is it, Jim? Yeah, we'll go like this.
2 points. One of them, as Kathy pointed out, at the moment, although that's being, there's also, we do have the separation between church and state. So we are in no position to tell a church what to do. And that is inherent with what Kathy was saying. The other thing is the Greater Collegiate Church system, whatever it is, will retain this property and will want to do things about it. And I agree, that once things start moving, we should make sure we are involved, and they may well, and this may take a while, but things will cool down. And then I'm sure they will have a process, and at that point, we can ask them to invite us into the process. Because, on some level, they are a church, and that means they really on some level want to do the good works and all the other good stuff.
Who's next?
It was like a star, so you.
I proposed, our community has been yearning for a community center. That would be a great location. It's central in the community, so if we were to submit a resolution regarding what the community board should create there, 181st is one of the veins of Washington Heights. And I propose that we encourage them to contemplate partnering with the community or however that looks like, and creating a community center where the community has access to programming and it doesn't have a lapse after whatever happens.
I mean, that's a great idealistic thing to suggest, but the church is looking for something that's going to bring in an annual income of at least $700 or maybe it's $800,000 per year. So you have, I mean, you don't. I just don't think that's very realistic. And the fact of the matter is, it currently serves to some extent as a community center because it does offer a number of different programs. It does open up its doors to different groups within the community, including, I think, the Boy Scouts and others. I mean, Mario, it may be that somebody made an inquiry and they were told that it doesn't qualify for landmark status. I would like to see that in writing. I would like to see the community board at least go on record and attempt to see whether it's possible. I don't think we should just walk away from that possibility. To me, again, this is a very, very special, unique part of our community, and it would be a shame to see that whole site become a large-scale development of some kind, which is what the church may be looking at doing in order to raise the maximum amount of money.
I have a quick question about the. Can I? Sorry, Chairman.
Actually, because you haven't really spoken to them down.
So how big is the congregation? Like, and
It's gotten bigger because of this controversy,
Yeah.
but it costs about $800,000 a year to maintain it.
no. Oh, okay. So there's still members of the church there.
Yes, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they're fighting to stay open.
And they opened up, but they're saving another part of their congregation. I think it's the Lower East Side or something. They have
Well,
4 congregations.
Yeah, the Collegiate Church has four
and they just put,
four branches in Manhattan.
Some with
they just
plenty
put
of
like
them.
multi-million dollars into one of those.
They just put multi-million dollars into this one. They built that whole new thing.
They just did it
That
recently.
board did.
That's relatively.
Well,
Just read about it.
you're talking about the one that had the fire down on Second
Oh.
Avenue.
That was-
I don't know, I assume they used insurance proceeds to rebuild that one, or
Hold on, is 8, and we have a couple things still left, so let me get to Daryl and then let's figure out the path forward here.
Yeah, just with the landmarking, my understanding was that the original sanctuary is eligible, which is like the oldest part of the building.
Right.
And the new parts are not eligible
No, they wouldn't
for
be.
landmarking,
No, they
right?
wouldn't.
So, and I would also just say, of all the people, except maybe congregants, I'm probably, me and my building are probably impacted most because I'm right next door
Oh,
to
right,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This did come
On
up at the.
where?
McAuliffe.
Colonel Robert McAuliffe.
Thank you.
Yes, that has a plaque on the church too.
Yes. This did come up at land use because there was one person to speak to us. And the key, landmarking is very nice, but by the time the thing will be landmarked 20 years from now, if ever, it's not gonna help them now. And again, as the church goes forward, the great.
Send it to Park, Steve, tell him.
Allow me to finish, as the church goes forward with whatever it is they wanna do, that would be the time, to add, especially the input that I think many of us do. We don't need another monstrous building there. Yeah.
Okay. How about this? Cause I'm trying to figure out what all the suggestions mean from everyone at the table. I can do a regular letter to the main consistory saying, we've heard loud and clear from different congregations, the board got questions, come and meet with us. That's one. Two, there can be next month essentially, and in the fall, continued deliberation for formal resolutions.
Well, why don't we ask them to, put a moratorium on their,
They're not going to.
well, we could ask them for it.
After the fact.
No, they made a decision now to close the church as of June 30th. And apparently they're voting tomorrow to dissolve the board of the church. So, we could ask them in good faith, in order to have continued, discussions with people in the community, including the community board, that they should hold off on taking such drastic actions at this time.
There's not consent, what I was saying earlier is that there is not consensus, I don't think at this table or at the full board especially to get there. Also because we've known about this for, one of the big things I'm hearing, and I also hold that, we've heard about this for the last 4 years.
No, we have not
And-
heard that they plan to close down the church.
We heard that 3 years ago.
Yeah,
They
but
said-
and they were saved because they found a tenant who was paying them, rent. So, and then that, tenant pulled out. So now they're in another
They've
crisis.
already extended it another quarter, so. Right, because it was supposed to be in April, now it's June 30th, that's the end of the fiscal year, I genuinely don't think that they're going to push it back any further.
Well, okay, but how does it hurt to ask? I mean,
Because had you been here on time, you would have heard me say, they are gonna decide to end this, congregation up here tomorrow, period.
No, they're
they-
voting tomorrow to dissolve the board.
No, they're dissolving,
And
no,
they're ending the congregation on June the 30th.
Okay, so
The point is, they will not vote any other way, and if we ask them to do something that they're not gonna do anyway, it makes us look weak.
yeah,
Well, if you ask them not to do anything, it
yeah,
makes
but
you
the
look weak.
programs are.
We're not, no, you just keep your mouth shut.
Okay, that's doing nothing. And that's letting the worst take place.
But we're getting mixed. Okay, so technically also, like, if you're willing to bring a motion forward, we can do a vote, but then that also means that somebody gotta draft that reso, send it tomorrow and open that up, so.
I'm all for a community center. I'm idealistic, Steve, I'm sorry, but.
But I'm saying, like, I'm hearing like the time, I'm hearing the time pressure and I understand where you're at. It's just also like, we're either doing something immediate or long-term or what?
Bingo.
Yeah.
Mariel has her hand up, so if I'm not.
It's Kathy, if I can come in,
Yeah.
I think your proposed solution of doing something immediate and then kind of in a longer term is a good medium or a good kind of middle space. So, a letter to the kind of wider collegiate board saying, we've heard these concerns, we have questions. And I would agree with Steve. I don't think it hurts to ask. We would like to kind of, like you said, we would like to kind of, can you hold off on this until there's more conversations about this? I don't think it hurts us to ask that. And then in that letter saying, we would like to invite you to a future meeting in the fall or something like that. Thank you, Mama.
I would tell them we would meet with them in June.
Or exactly, or right in June.
So is that a motion?
Or is it possible to?
That is a motion. Yes.
A community land trust
Well,
and sell it back to the community.
Wait, so is this, cause, hold on, now I'm confused. there was two options the way I see it. A letter that is just a regular letter that does not require full board vote. And now I'm hearing language that may require a full board vote with an actual board position.
So what I
Because
put,
we're
oh, sorry.
asking for a moratorium versus engagement, then we're asking for, am I wrong or am I
Well,
convoluted? Right?
the two are linked. We're asking them to hold off taking any drastic action at this time, so there can be further discussion with the wider community. Right now, they've only been talking to the congregation. We're letting them know that this impacts the larger community, not just that immediate congregation.
They actually haven't spoken to anybody.
What?
They haven't, the consistory formally has not spoken to anybody.
Well, they've spoken.
They haven't met with, maybe they met with people individually, but they did not like have like formal meetings with the congregation.
Well, they.
That's why there's a lot of confusion also on what.
I watched a video live stream of a session in which somebody representing the consistory downtown attended a church meeting and spoke to the church members and answered questions from them. So there was some interaction.
Okay, so the motion was seconded. Well, can you repeat the motion? Mario, can you repeat the?
Sorry, I had a phone call. What am I doing? Am I repeating the motion?
Motion, yeah.
Okay. The motion is to put forward a letter that comes from you, Kathy, asking for the wider church leadership to meet with the community board, and in the meantime, hold or kind of have a moratorium until those discussions are had to understand what is happening with the space.
That motion was seconded, right?
Yeah, so are we voting?
No, we're not voting. Now we're having a discussion,
Okay.
okay? Now, in order for the motion that's being proposed to go forward,
This is a motion now for Mario.
whomever, in order for the motion to go forward,
She seconded.
this would have to be approved by this committee. Well, there are two possibilities. Kathy unilaterally could write the letter, because she has to probably do this. This committee, as a body, could pass this resolution on behalf of the board. Now, what Kathy pointed out earlier, and I agree with her, is that we do not, normally when this committee passes a resolution on behalf of the board, we only do it because it will have to be ratified at the next meeting. We only do that kind of thing if we're sure it's gonna be ratified. Because if the board doesn't ratify it, we'll actually have to rescind what we wrote and we'll look stupid, to say the least. Now, Kathy pointed out, and I believe she's correct, that we have nothing like unanimity among the greater board. In fact, we don't even know what to feel. So there's no assurance that what you passed tonight, even though you may think it's a great idea, will be ratified by the entire board. And if it isn't, again, we will look rather, as a committee, we won't look good because we will have stuck our necks out. We should not have stuck our necks out because that's not what our board wants us to do. So I want to alert you to that.
Okay, Steve, and then I got something to say.
Well, let me just say, if we do nothing, we will look like jerks. We will look as though we don't care about a major issue now pending in our community, an emergency, which we're gonna turn our backs on. So that to me would be the height of foolishness. And I find it hard to believe that a majority of our community board would have an issue with our asking for a simple discussion with the people who were on the verge of taking a drastic action that negatively impacts on our community. So I have faith in our board. I believe our board would support this resolution. I don't believe that the board would turn their backs on people in our community who are trying to save their congregation.
Let them know.
I just have a quick comment, Kathy. And just to, I respect that, Steve. I get it, but I think that this is kind of like a overreach. I think that's the church, that's their congregation. They have to make that decision ultimately. Yeah, I mean, we can suggest anything that we want, right? We're advisory, but I think that it's gonna fall on deaf ears. I mean, this is a much bigger issue than just the congregation. I think church membership is at an all-time low here in New York. But I just think that you know this is an overreach. You know, I think that if the church is making that decision, is because fiscally they can't afford to keep this going.
Anthony?
I don't want to speak too lawyerly, but Jim raised it earlier. I think if we were to do something like this, we're putting ourselves in a position where we have to be at least considering these types of issues for every single religious organization in the district. Because otherwise, I think we're coming very close to violating the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. We are a governmental body, we must abide by that. And unless we are willing to, as a board, also adhere that we must consider every single like issue, in-kind issue for every religious organization in the district, I think we're risking that. And I don't think we should put ourselves in that position.
Darrell.
Just a couple things. One, I respectfully disagree with Jim, which is rare, but I don't think that our consideration, one of our top considerations should be, what is the full board going to think? I think we have a sense here amongst ourselves, and that doesn't need to be an outlying factor in this. As it relates to the religion of this particular congregation, most of the talk has been about their community programming, not so much their worshiping. So we can keep it to the community programs. There is the community fridge, there is the voting, there is a lot of music and arts. So much else that is part of the garden, that is part of that, what we call a church, but none of us really mentioned the worshiping side of it. So it's really the community side of it.
And I did send you a link that has their resolution. It did say something, my eyesight isn't great right now, but it did say something about why the YMWHA or something is also.
Oh, that was.
I sent you, Kathy, and they sent me as well, like the number of people that access the community fridge, the list of all of the tenants of the community programs. I want to elevate Darrell's point. Yes, these programs are hosted in a church space, but this is wider than, a religious organization. This is a community hub, a place where people go to for resources in a community where we honestly don't have enough.
So that's what I'm saying, language here matters, because when you restated the motion, it was about the moratorium on not closing the church. The letter we can just do like that. I didn't have an issue from the beginning, just drafting the letter. Again, this is by tomorrow by 12, right? So drafting the letter, talking about the pieces I mentioned early, the maintenance, the future of the site, and asking them to come up with a plan or to engage with the community and their congregants around the community programming. But if we're telling them about not closing the church, then that's a different conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like from the beginning, those pieces can always go in a letter. That can go by tomorrow. I don't know if a reso's a path forward for that right now, but if we're saying that it's about the moratorium and not closing, then that's a different conversation. Heidi hasn't spoken, so.
I think in terms of a letter or something, just because pragmatically speaking, this is going to proceed. Something that we talked about in land use is, one of the concerns with the coalition that's trying to stop the closure is about redevelopment and what would it be? And there's like a real estate sign on the outside, and so people are really concerned about that. And I think just some language about, to the extent that this is going to proceed, that any redevelopment of the site be like mission aligned, affordable, just inclusive of community use. So I can send you a sentence, basically addressing,
Okay, well, he had his hand up first and then.
I propose a friendly amendment, because I do agree with Darrell. I think and Heidi as well, it's about the components that this letter has, which me personally, I don't feel comfortable addressing nobody's religion, so I don't feel comfortable talking about religion in the first place. I think we should keep it to, again, I'm an optimistic and an idealist, community space, because that's the only thing that brings every walks of life together. And speaking to the lack of community spaces and how removing this space is detrimental to the community, which already lacks community space, and contemplating doing potentially a town hall to get feedback from the community, which is hosted by CB12, on suggestions for the site. And I think that's fair for everybody. It encompasses everybody. We could try to save everybody and everybody contributes. My personal, because I've been to a few community events. I went to the church, to the chapel, because one of our colleagues, Whitaker, had an event there. I went to support him, and that's the closest I've come to.
Theaters have all of their plays.
Yeah, exactly. So Mary does a theater plays and watches it there. So everybody has been tapped in different lengths. That doesn't necessarily, yes, while it's a holy space, it presents more than that to the community. And I think that's what we should focus.
So, all right, now I'm getting lost. Are we voting on a resol that somebody's gonna draft that has to be sent tomorrow and that's gonna go to the full board? Or am I drafting a simple letter and waiting till they respond and then maybe is there a resol? I need, because it's
I think a
18.
letter is the appropriate approach, which is what I support.
So you rescind your,
So I wasn't asking for a resolution. I was asking for a letter
oh, okay.
that was sent to the board.
What I was being really clear about is that it's not a letter of support in either
Exactly.
direction.
No,
It's a-
exactly. It's just saying, please hold off on making a decision so that we can have these conversations. That's
On
what
a
I was-
decision on the community programming.
No,
on the space. We can say on the space because it impacts everything, right? We don't have to say the church. because Ultimately, they are interlinked, but we can say on the
I
space.
don't think they're interlinked. Like, I think that there's a church that is closing and there's there's a garden.
But if the
there's
church closes, the community program closes too. That's the thing, right?
Does
It's
it
not
have
one
to?
or the
We know
other.
that. We don't know
That's
that. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's a garden there.
They're not making any money off of those other
But-
things. They're not interested in keeping.
But how do we know if we, like, I understand,
So the letter should
Outside
just
of the
be
space.
clarification what's gonna happen with the community component.
but that's
it.
what I'm asking for. But the moment that we say that it has to reconsider, that's a resol, that's not a letter.
Well, can we just say, please do not take any further action?
No.
To,
I mean, you can, but then it's a resolution.
I'd like to invite you for, for a conversation. We would like to learn more about what may happen with the space and leave it at that.
Yeah.
From the beginning, so why are we having this conversation?
Okay. I heard y'all loud and clear. I can draft
But there's a
something?
motion on the floor.
Oh, there is a
There's
motion.
a motion on the floor because, well, actually, didn't Mario or whoever just.
She
rescind the
second.
motion?
Oh, she
Oh,
was.
no,
No, Daryl seconded it,
All right,
and then
cool.
she rescinded, no,
Rescinded, then we're.
no, she didn't. rescind.
Clarified, but
She
yes,
clarified, I'm
it's a
sorry.
letter.
Allow me to talk. In her clarification, she's still asking that they hold off their vote tomorrow. The second we ask them to do anything with opposed to just after us, it's a real resolution. This body would have to adopt it. It would have to be, ratified by the board. And in fact, they will not hold off. And again, I'm not saying, we don't, but again, because you don't know the sentiment of the rest of the board. Well, let's go back even further. In the past, we have never taken this kind of action unless we were certain in advance that the board was going to ratify it. Because otherwise the chair or this committee looks terrible. Now, what I would suggest, and again, I'm just making a suggestion because as you know, I'm sort of only half here. I would suggest that the resolution be taken off the floor and that as a half measure, which is better than, allow me to finish, as a half measure, which is better than nothing. Kathy writes this more general thing, asking us, expressing our interest in the situation and asking us to stay involved with them.
Yeah, I had my hand up.
Not done yet.
I said I had my hand up whenever you're ready.
Well, and keep quiet until we're ready.
Yeah.
The thing is that, as this half measure, we will be on the side of the Angels, but we will not be sticking our neck out. And then, of course, and I actually took a course in the First Amendment at Columbia, from the president at the time. I tend to agree that when we are talking to religious institutions, we have to be very careful. And although as a result of what they do tomorrow, the programs may shut down, you know, what they're doing tomorrow is on some level in their function as leaders of a religious body. Well, so that's what I'm suggesting. You can do it tomorrow.
Okay, Eliezer haven't spoken at all. Parliamentarian, I'm gonna need to weigh in because I lost where we were at in terms of the motions. Did you bring up another motion or are you?
I'm suggesting that people who brought up the motion take it back, which will allow you to write the letter that you suggested you wanted to write in the first place.
We're still in the discussion.
Right.
Okay, Eliezer.
Yeah, after the word of King James, I just wanna say that, you know, the precedent has been established in the past. I remember clearly when we wrote a letter of support to Coogans when he closed. It was a simple letter saying how much we as a community appreciated the work that they've done and all the attention that they've given, blah, 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 blah. So like Marielle and Daryl and most of the people here have said, simple letter of support. You know, whichever direction it takes is out of our control. And we're not an independent body. That's what we have the city charter for. We don't set rules on our own. But, you know, I think that a nice letter of support would help the cause. That's all I wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're not talking about writing a letter of support. Writing the letter that's now being discussed is, to me, not a half measure. It's a minus half measure. If you're gonna write that, I don't even, this is not the time to write that letter. You're gonna write a letter now, at the point at which they're voting to dissolve the board of the church and say that you're not interested in that issue. You only want to know what's gonna happen in the future with community programs. That presupposes then that you're accepting the decision. You're basically in effect supporting the decision to dissolve the board. That letter is not, this is not the time to write that letter. You know, you want to write that letter, write it after they've made all of these decisions and then come back to them and say that you want to have a discussion about the future use of the building. Now is not the time to write that letter.
Well, where have?
So I'm gonna need a result. Like, I feel like we're going in circles and we're talking at 8:25, repeating the same things over and over again. So I'm gonna need some decision making here. Either somebody's gonna bring forth a reso and draft it.
Talking right now.
What?
There's a reso in question.
There's a reso and question, you know, if because what I'm hearing from Steve is something stronger that is a reso, something with more teeth. And in that case, I'm gonna need somebody to raise it and write it. Otherwise, on my own, I'm not, when I draft letters as chair, independent of being ratified, I'm not taking, I'm echoing a position that the board has. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm echoing where there is consensus because I'm speaking on behalf of the body. Right now, the body's all over the place. And so I don't think that, and I don't mean that like just in that, I'm talking about in terms of picking apart the issue. There's different opinions. I don't think that it's responsible of me on my own to write that. So I can write the general letter that talks about the engagement, the concerns, the maintenance of the community programs, the stewarding of the community garden, and engaging us. I could do that on my own, but anything else beyond that, we gotta vote. Because we're going around at this point.
Since I was referred to as King James now has more to say, because King James actually knows something about procedure. And then we have our Prince over there who knows about the law.
No, not Prince.
When the king, you can be
Prince James.
We got a promotion.
Yeah, well. Anyway, I'm talking. Let's say, for example, this body decides to give Steve the right to, well, okay, here's the point. What we generally do in committee, and on some level, technically, we should not even be doing it, is committees generally, right? They pass not the specific wording of a resolution, but they pass sort of a consensus on what the resolution is about. And then maybe they cooperate on writing the resolution or whatever, but so basically you're approving something before it's written. When you have something contentious like this, you're basically, on some level, you may not do that. You may not give Steve the right to write a resolution, because at that point, that becomes a resolution, and Kathy, our chair, has no say in the matter. And you have no say in the matter after the fact that you actually write this vote. I mean, procedurally, that's just a horror. And I will stick out my neck and say, from my point of view, you may not do that because of the contentiousness of the situation and the timing of the situation. There's no time for process. And do keep in mind that one of the big issues in this country, and we're a little small fry, is in fact process. Because that's how that poor man got to Venezuela. There was no process. So let us be champions of process. It's process that's going to save our behind.
You know, Salvador.
Yeah.
King James is done.
Well, he's gonna sign. Oh, no, he's not, he's on Salvador.
That's the word of the citizens for Salvador.
It is 8:29, so I'm gonna give this a minute for.
Marielle, was it reso in housing? Because someone from the coalition believed that there was a reso being produced in housing. Okay.
I can clarify because
Yeah.
it was presented at our committee. They came and they drafted a resolution and they said, this is what we would like the community board to do. And we as the committee, and Tanisha was there, we as the committee said, we agree there would be a loss of, there would be a big impact to the community if the space is closed. And then I said, and I was very clear with them, I said, we need to figure out what's the appropriate format, whether it's a letter or a resolution, because, technically in terms of who we're writing it to, it's not our elected representatives or city agencies, right? It's to kind of a different entity. And so that's where it was left at. And then we went to Kathy to get some guidance.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it sounds like we now have consensus not to write the resolution, in which case I believe Kathy should write the letter.
So we gotta call it a question?
Excuse me?
Do we have to call it a question
Well,
and
she
break
didn't,
it down?
did she rescind
No,
formally?
she didn't rescind.
That's we're waiting on her to rescind though, right?
All right, so
I'm right here. I can hear you. You can say, Marielle, can you rescind? Thank you.
Can you
Oh.
I
rescind?
rescind. Thank you.
Okay.
She rescinded. Okay. Now, do we have a consensus that Kathy should write the mealy mouth thing that Stephen doesn't like?
I'm opposed to it.
Okay. Well, we can vote on that.
You can send the mealy mouth letter after they take this vote, not before they take that vote. Because if you send it before the vote, it implies that you are in agreement with the vote.
Not really.
Yes, it does.
Well,
You're not objecting to it. Implicitly, you're accepting it. This is the
No.
wrong time to send that.
That
letter.
is true, though.
Things are not binary in this world, and that's one of the reasons you're in trouble.
Kathy, I can provide you with some information that they provided me talking about the impact of the loss of the community space. They gave me some really good kind of data that you can include in the letter.
Are we
This-
voting?
Google Docs?
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Yep.
Oh, are we voting on whether you're writing
The
the
letter
letter?
now. It's a letter. I rescinded the resolution.
I think that since there's disagreement on whether when
That's the
Kathy
vote.
should write the letter, this body. should
Can I
vote.
ask a question? Sorry, one question. Here's something. Has something like this ever happened in the past where there was a closing of a congregation that offered services to the community? And what did the board do in that case?
That has never happened in this district.
So we're not gonna set a dangerous precedent by doing
Nope.
anything of the
Well,
sort.
United Palace,
How about the
their
synagogue
congregation.
where
We
by
never
the
talked
A
about
train,
anything
that
to do with
the
their
developer bought the whole thing?
Okay.
And he was gonna give
Yeah, on Fort Washington.
Yeah, the synagogue, we
Yeah,
did a
synagogue.
synagogue, remember by the A train? They bought the
Yes.
whole, and
They bought the air rights and then after the.
they said they were gonna redevelop it, and then the guy went broke.
Was that the
Exactly.
developer or was that the
Yeah,
church?
It's not an analogous situation.
Right.
But as far as I'm
Just-
concerned.
Just making sure that we're not setting a precedent, that's all.
We are gonna set a precedent, but there's no other church in our community at this kind of a location, at this kind of a setting. This is really a historic location, as far as I'm concerned. And it's worth preserving. It's not just the church per se, it's not just, I'm far from being religious. I'm not interested in necessarily in preserving the congregation because of its religious character. I'm interested in preserving the
Space.
church building, the setting, and the services that it provides to the wider community.
The historic building.
It's a very historic building.
And that's literally what's in the letter.
That's literally-
That's what you said.
That's what I've been saying from the beginning.
I would keep the building out of the letter.
I have a question.
Yeah, and it's like,
No, wait, we can't.
Quick question, quick question. Steve,
Otherwise they could build a high rise there, but we don't
yeah,
want
a quick question. Can you repeat again the part about the religious, the religious, whatever you said about, the only concerning the programs and not the religious character. Can you phrase that again in the context of what you would like the letter to look like or not, so that I can understand?
What I'm advocating for for the preservation of the existing building.
Infrastructure.
Because the building is a historic building, as far as I'm concerned, unfortunately, they tacked on this more modern annex to it, and maybe that's disqualified it from landmark status, but I think that should still be pursued. Maybe there's a way to preserve and grant landmark status to the older portions of the structure. But the way it is set back from the street, the way that it has this garden in front, it is a very, and it's been there for probably, I don't know, maybe 150 or more years. I mean, it's a very historic part of Washington Heights. It would be a shame to lose that site and to see a massive development go up, which is what I'm afraid the downtown church is apt to do, because they're trying to maximize their profit or their revenue. Let me not say profit, their revenue from the site. So we may lose in this community a very significant location, a very significant part of what's been our historic character for years and years and years. That's what concerns me, not necessarily the religious character of the congregation. I know very little about the collegiate church, but I'm not fighting necessarily for the preservation of that congregation, as much as I believe that congregation is a forward-looking and very and has been contributing to this community. I think as has been mentioned previously, the grounds upon which we have to argue is more centered on the impact on the community itself. And then let me remind you, should they decide to sell this property and a developer decide to put up something that's going to require a zoning variance or whatever, they're going to have to come before the board. So it's not as though there's a very strict division between church and state when it comes to this property, because in the end, we may have to offer advice on whatever is being proposed.
okay, this is getting into a circle, because literally everything you just outlined was everything we said would be in there. Because again, it was the language that's been being used around the actual congregation that I think confused
But if you're
it.
not going to ask them at a crucial moment.
It's about the
If
program.
you're not gonna ask them at a crucial moment tomorrow.
Yeah, that's fine.
If you're not gonna ask them at a crucial moment tomorrow to hold off taking this action to dissolve the board of the church, then
But why-
it's the wrong time to send that letter.
Let's send it on Wednesday.
So we can send it, I'm like, again, we can send it whenever. I just want to be very clear that we're not talking about, because the one thing is the board of a congregation, another thing is the actual sites. And like
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
programming that
No,
happens
but
there.
if we have any hope to preserve that site, I believe we need to have the.
Oversight,
we
they
need to
gotta
have
tell
the
us that.
current board in place. We need to have the current church in place, because those are the people right on the ground, right there, who are gonna advocate with
How
us
come
for
that
the
president
preservation
never
of that.
gets to talk
for the
to
So that board,
preservation of
that board never, to be honest, that board never came here, and that's part of a lot of the confusion
Well,
and misinformation that's happening.
Yes.
Let's be honest.
Yes,
So
indeed.
are we voting that you're writing the letter or not? Can we?
I don't know, that parliamentarian, can you help us get out of this mess?
Well,
Are we voting? Are we moving forward?
if we have no consensus here that we want to vote on you doing something, and I agree with Steve that, if in fact, and Steve, by the way, has consistently left out the fact that they're not just voting on dissolving the board, they're also voting on closing down the congregation at the end of June. That's also what they'll be voting on tomorrow. Now, if we cannot alter that, then we basically have our sweet time, because they will be deciding what to do. And at that time, we can, write our letter about, the beauty of the space and how valuable it is to our community and all this other good stuff. But, so maybe, we will be doing no harm by waiting a significant significant amount of time. But it sounds to me that, you know, trying to tell this church what to do tomorrow when they're not gonna do it anyway. And again, just because of the technicalities, we basically, in some sense, if we're gonna follow any kind of reasonable procedure, you cannot do that. So in that case, maybe we don't need the letter yet, but we will need it. Or at some point, we can even pass the resolution after the fact saying, well, now that you've done this, these are the concerns of the community.
Jim, because
Certainly.
Can I motion that you write the letter and, by Wednesday,
Yes.
or Wednesday?
I second.
Second, okay. I can write the letter by Wednesday and send it this week to folks at this table who want to give input, and then invite them to meet with us in June, if that
I
works.
think.
Can we vote on that?
I
Can we
think,
vote on that?
yeah,
Or in the fall, I don't
I
know.
think we shouldn't fall into, cause I think that the reason we're in this situation is because we haven't gotten any communication. But I think it is fair for the community to know at least where we stand, and I agree with you, Steve. Like, hey, look, this is what it is, but we're going in there blind technically because the board that's getting dissolved tomorrow hasn't even come to speak to us about, hey, this is the current state of where we're at. So now we're debating amongst each other, assuming that we know what's going on, when, how about if they do want it? How about if they don't want it? How about if they have another option? So that's all I'm trying to say. So I forfeit, and I call it to question.
There was a motion there.
Yeah.
Motion, he was seconded.
Second, and I call it to question so that there's no
We're
conversation.
voting on whether Kathy should write some letter
By
no
Wednesday.
earlier than Wednesday.
Correct.
Correct.
No earlier than Wednesday.
I have an amendment.
It's, okay, what's your amendment, Steve?
My amendment is that, we wait to find out what happens tomorrow night, before we decide whether or not Wednesday is the right time to send the letter.
That's why he said, listen to what he said. Listen to what he said.
No, because, well, no, you're automatically saying they should send the letter on Wednesday.
No, he didn't say that.
Draft by Wednesday.
The earliest.
No earlier than Wednesday.
Yeah.
No sooner than Wednesday could be next month.
Okay,
Next week.
I accept that amendment. Yeah, we wasting time out here.
Right,
Um,
Roll
is
call?
it a roll call?
On the letter
But we
B.
don't have a date for when she's gonna send it, so it's just we're
No.
voting on
After
an
Wednesday.
ambiguous date sometime after. Okay.
Yes.
What they decide.
I'm delirious now.
No,
Let's
it's
keep
not getting
going.
there
So we'll
myself.
get a long email from Steve tomorrow.
Exactly.
We're holding all of.
Tomorrow. Roll call. Domingo,
Yes.
Luana,
Yes.
Eleazar,
We voted that the letter is gonna be drafted by Wednesday, right?
yeah.
So my vote is yes.
Wayne /
Yes.
Cedro,
Yes.
Marielle,
Yes.
Steve Simon,
Shane.
Jesus, got all
of
that.
Joel,
No.
After an
I don't
amendment.
want to do something really bad.
Mary.
Yes.
No.
I vote yes. Alexis,
Yes.
Tanisha,
Sure, yes.
Anthony,
Yes.
Catherine.
No, yes.
Okay.
Yes, actually, sorry. All right, licensing, how many results do we have next week? You see, how many results next
So
week?
we got 18, about 4 of them withdrew at the meeting. There was one particular resolution that we're going to recommend the board to consider, which was an item that had many no complaints a couple of years ago. When they came back, those issues still persist. So we kind of entered into an agreement with our owner where the speaker will mount it on the outside that are going to be dismantled. But the board would need like proof before and after picture and a statement that they will never install speaker outside.
Notarized statement.
So that was the agreement that we kind of negotiated with the landlord. And that's basically it.
A notarized statement or just a statement?
Just a statement.
Which place is it?
This is
For what?
Juanitas, for what public,
It's the one we
Oh,
covered.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, for real?
Oh,
Oh,
no.
nah.
Oh, I didn't know they had all
I
that.
disagree.
That's funny.
It's the first time I hear that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm sitting here smiling.
Yes, sir.
Are people getting the new good neighbor sign at the meetings now or no? The new good neighbor sign, are they getting it at the meeting?
Yeah, we are giving out to all the operators.
Okay.
We had a lot of people come in person, this month, which is
Yeah.
unusual.
And it's something that we're going to, I think, request that, starting like, in September, that all applicants come in person, because, we are finding out that the, public notice is usually not posted the right way, or the correct way, including missing either the English or the Spanish translation of it. So we're going to request, starting in, September, that coming through.
Not for now, but so Paula was working on the updated dining out program things for the website. And then Noemi took it upon herself to start drafting like a visual aid. So it's like step 1, step 2, what you need to do. And I think that it was a really good idea to do that. So being able to do one for like all of our licensing committees, so they know like step 1, this is what you do. Step 2, this is what you're required. Step 3, your presentation, this is what, you know, kind of like the basics is expected. So, or what to expect at the meeting. So I'll tell them to send the mock-up of that, because if you think that's something that we could do for licensing, that would be good, including coming in person.
Most definitely, we really have to clarify what we mean by floor plans. Some
Okay.
people submit really sketchy floor plans that doesn't specifically say the space that is required. And on that note, I'm going to ask to see if the Human Rights Commission want to come to one of our meetings to clarify what are the APA compliance requirements for all their laws.
Yeah, I
love
mean,
that.
we could do that, or, the mayor's office of people with disabilities.
So you're not gonna have enough.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know there was an office now. All right, it's 8:45. Are there announcements?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I had asked Ebenezer to check with Sapo on whether any permits had been issued for the coming months for any of our plazas as an outgrowth of the public hearing we had recently. Did he get back to you? Do we know if he reached out to Sapo? Do we-
He reached out to Sapo. I saw that email today. They did not respond yet. Then that was like hold on. We have like a direct person that he works with, but from what I saw, I don't think I saw a response.
When did he reach out?
Hold on. I gotta dig for it. Anything in the meantime, can we see?
Well, I would like us to do something as a result of that public hearing that we held. We spent a lot of time, devoted a lot of energy to it, and there should be something that we do, and at a minimum, I'm thinking we should at least do a resolution asking Sapo to make sure that there aren't back-to-back permits issued for any of the plazas, so that people can get some kind of relief on weekends, so that there aren't events there on both Saturdays and Sundays. And that was an issue that was brought up at our hearing. So among other things, I would like to see, I would talk to Leo about doing a joint resolution on that question.
Yeah, but I also think it's important, Steve, what I noticed there as well was, I'm not trying to say that individual plazas were targeted, but there's a lot of plazas in our community that are very poorly maintained, have zero programming according to and I feel like that diluted from the fact that there's a lot of underutilized space that we're closing down streets to create gathering spaces as opposed to structured programming spaces. So that's something that I felt wasn't addressed. And I'm not big on, I call bullshit when I see it. It was a lot of bullshit going on, right? And a lot of targeting. But what I was interested on, and Jim hit the nail on, it was the process of how you select these spaces, how do you identify nonprofits that have the ability to do programming in these spaces, because the problem there seems to be procedural, not just necessarily, because how is it that we have a plaza right here that all these meetings happened for last year? And the CBO just picks up and leaves and there's nothing happening now, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's part of the problem that happened that wasn't necessarily, they didn't respond to it. And I think that was part of the problem.
Well, it really wasn't the topic of the hearing. I mean, maybe we need to have a broader view of how they.
It was a hearing on the plazas.
No, but it was on noise in plaza. It was specifically on noise.
Okay,
It wasn't about the general operation of the plaza.
okay.
But so maybe that's a separate meeting.
So-
That should be undertaken.
Actually, Jim, and then.
And thank you for your kind words, Benito. The problem is that DOT creates most of these plazas for traffic reasons. They have nothing to do with the programming, nothing to do with where they are. If they see they have a street that serves no purpose, or it's too wide, or people, then they make a plaza. And then there we are with the plaza with no programming, no sponsors. So that's, and again, it's all part of the process. So I think that's something that, and maybe, and I agree with Steve that his committee and the traffic committee should create some kind of resolution. But one of the things we would have to put in that resolution based upon what both of us have said is that DOT's process, you can't just make things for traffic reasons and then create this sort of island in the middle of nowhere where chaos happens. That defeats the purpose of making the community better and safer. So they have to have more in mind than just their traffic consideration if they're gonna close down the street.
I think to kind of wrap up that point, because we could be here all night, and also Leo's not here anyway, is I think that for next month, it would be good because I think there were some things that were shared that are like quick and easy recommendations that, it's just a matter of like brokering introductions between some of the operators and others, or publicizing like because the 34th precinct said what, 10 o'clock, 8 o'clock? Like there's a cutoff time now for their permit that is way earlier than before.
I think they said 8.
I think they said 8 o'clock, yeah. I'm like, 10 is too late. They said 8 p.m. and it's only once a week, at least for Dykeman, but
And the, what was it, the guy from Dykeman,
Victor, I think his name is.
Yeah, Victor Santos. I think what he said is that their plan right now is only to have programs, I forget whether it would be the Saturday or Sunday from 2 to 8.
Yeah, it was once a week from 2 to 8 p.m. So, we also got to wait for the summer and see what happens. But I think like it'd be good. No, but I'm saying that they made agreements with the precinct as to what would happen in sanctioned events.
Yeah, but I don't think we should wait for the summer.
No, I'm not saying wait for the summer, but what I'm saying is that like you guys as committees need to regroup and assess like how that meeting went. And then what are other things that we as a board, even if it's a resolution or more information we can publish or things like that, especially around SAPO. Because I don't think it was just like resos that we have opportunities for, but I'm saying that you guys need to regroup in committee to do that.
That resolution, I would like to see a monthly update on the newsletter as to like what SAPO permits are out in the community,
Yeah.
so people could know.
We could, let me do that before.
For anything.
Yeah.
They're not just plazas.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, I'm talking to, that was on my list to talk to Noemi on. I don't think it has to be on the reso because we could start it with June. I just gotta get to her this week.
But could you ask him that he's gonna follow up to get an answer from Sappho on the?
Yeah, I'll ask. Okay, any other announcements? Mary?
This, the Asian Committee's June meeting will not be a formal meeting. It'll be in the plaza, speaking of plazas, the Audubon Plaza on June 5th. And we're partnering, the Asian Committee is partnering with all of these organizations at the bottom. MJHS, POA, which I'm also co-chair of, City Meals on Wheels, who's going to be providing meals for everybody that attends. ARC 16, Presbyterian, Columbia. I think that left anybody else out. So any of the board members that are able to come, please come. Also spread the word.
Class is the one out here.
So it's gonna have programming.
Finally.
Programming, right, and we
Gotta
actually.
thank-
were
thank
going to-
Mary.
We were gonna try to do a health fair on our own, but since the DA's office has been sort of, the leader of having this yearly health fair for the last 3 years now. And Waikoa has always been a part of it. We decided to wait and jump in with them, so it's gonna be a pretty big affair.
Yeah.
June 5th.
June
First
5th.
Thursday of June, which is our usual
Um,
meeting date. It's gonna be from 11 to 3. This is gonna go into the newsletter, but if anybody wants a flyer, I have.
I'll take one.
Two last announcements that I shared. Oh, I just realized both are Monday. So for Wednesday, we have, and if y'all didn't get it, let me know, but all board members are supposed to get it. Wednesday at 3 o'clock, American Academy of Arts and Letters invited us to the ceremony that they do at the Church of Intercession on 155. So that invite went out, and then at 5 o'clock, this Wednesday at 3 p.m. You have to reserve a ticket, so if y'all didn't, do that soon.
I reserved and I canceled, so I know there's 2.
Okay, and then at 5 o'clock, we're going to the library at Inwood. And then, what was the other invite?
5 o'clock on Wednesday.
Is it one? My phone died, so now I don't remember.
I think it's.
It's Thursday because I have.
Oh, it's the
conflict.
22nd,
I
yes.
can't go.
Sorry, okay. Wednesday at 3 p.m., Academy of Arts and Letters. Thursday at 5 o'clock, we're going to the Inwood Library tour. And then the WEAC sent the invite, but that's tomorrow, I think, at 5, right? Yeah, I got it
With
today.
parks?
Yeah, about like what you want, basically shaping Northern Manhattan
You need
parks.
tickets for that?
No, that's open.
Thursday, we have our
Yeah,
poker
that's.
tournament.
Ooh.
That's our fundraiser, poker
Cool.
tournament.
Any other announcements before we wrap up? I got a motion. Seconded.
Third, fourth, fifth, sixth.
Good night, Zoom folks. Thank you.
Happy
Joelle.
next birthday.
What's today? Oh, it's May 19th.
When they murdered him.
But you know there's a celebration.